Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior Podcast Fantasy Edition. I am your host, Mike, and in the back you got my co-host over there, Spliff. That's my dog. I don't think you guys have met him yet. That's Spliff. He's my boy. But yeah, happy 420 to everybody who indulges. If you do indulge, I do encourage you to feel free during the show. I indulge as well, and I personally thought it might be fun to spark a little bit of a something while on here. I didn't want to do it right off the bat, so no one just turns on my stream and just sees me smoking. But maybe I might pull it out later on through the show if I'm feeling it. Until then, I do have a beverage. So if anyone rather drink, cheers on that. And for anyone new to the show, what we do here is we go over the fantasy apps. I say fantasy apps because there's just a bunch at this point. It's not just DraftKings anymore. Now we have other options that do for apps that do other things. So what I focus on is DraftKings. I find that I'm probably not the best resource for DraftKings. I think I provide some good input, but I do encourage you guys to also check out other DraftKings shows. There's people who do more in-depth stats than I do. But I go over the more overview part of it for DraftKings. But PrizePicks, that's my favorite part of the show. That's what I think I do best. I'm going to switch the order. I used to do DraftKings first. Now we're going to do PrizePicks first. For anybody who doesn't know what PrizePicks is, it's just a cool app that makes props available for fighters. So, I mean, they do it for basketball and all those other sports as well, but it's great for fighting. It's cool because on sports books, you can't bet like over-unders on takedowns, right? I can't bet Clay Guida is going to get over 2 takedowns on a sports book. That doesn't exist. PrizePicks is cool because it offers those things. We can bet things like over-under on strikes, over-under on takedowns, over-under on a fantasy score under PrizePicks scoring. So it's really cool there. Unfortunately, you can't play the lines straight, so that's the difference between PrizePicks and a sports book. You essentially have to parlay, and you have to do at least 2. So, but a two-piece parlay on PrizePicks gives you 3 times your money, and then you can go higher and higher up until I think 4 picks gets you 10 times. But I never play that. I only play 2 persons. If I'm like feeling super confident, I want to go for it maybe sometimes, but I don't usually go more than for 2 people on a PrizePicks play. So anyways, I'll do a quick recap of last week. Not that there's much to recap. We did okay on PrizePicks. I think I broke even again, which keeps happening. Then DraftKings, we did okay. I think I turned a small profit. And PrizePicks also, PredictionStrike, we also did well, but the fees are killing me, man. It's like I'm making a few cents every week. PredictionStrike, for anyone who doesn't know, it's just another cool app that turns athletes into stocks, something we've all thought about before. And you can buy fighters, and you can buy their stock and whatnot, and then buy and sell. I used to talk about it more. I talk about it less now because I think the fees kind of ruin the app. But I do still play, so I do still bring it up. But anyways, let's get right into it. So the first option on PrizePicks is Fight Time. I don't necessarily love betting this one because I feel like the whole point of PrizePicks is betting things that we don't have on a sports book, but we do have these on sports books. But I guess since they line it different, there's opportunities here and there, so I do go over it. I go over each side of the fight because you can't handicap this off of one person. It just doesn't work. Especially for fights like the Arichi Lang versus Cameron Elsay fight, right? If I looked at just Arichi Lang, I'd say, all right, them going over 9 minutes is very possible. Then I look at Elsay and I see he's never gone 9 minutes, so not as good of a play if you look at it that way. So, anyways, I guess one other angle here for these plays is like, if you look at the Prachnio-Lins fight, right? So the over-under is set at 9 minutes on PrizePicks, and it's set on 7.5 minutes on the book. So, if you think it goes over, you're going to want to play it on the book. It's minus 150 on the over. It's not the best odds, but if you like the over, I would do it there rather than playing it on PrizePicks. But if you wanted the under, then you'd go with the 9 minutes, right? Because you get more time there. So there's some angles here. I normally don't play these. There's one that stuck out to me, and I'll go over it when I get there. But anyways, I'll go through them one by one like I always do, and then we'll see if I can find any spots for us. I also pick my spots as I do this show. I have a bunch of plays for PFL that I'll go over at the end, but I don't have a single UFC play yet. So hopefully I can come up with some today. All right, so for the first one, we got Barry and Jackson. Their under/over is set at 7.5 on minutes on the app, and that's a 1.5 rounds. It's the same on the books, minus 110 on the over. For Barry, this has never hit. For Jackson, it's hit one of 2 of his professional fights, the CM Punk fight. To be completely honest, I think it goes over, but I'm personally looking at betting this straight on a sports book, not on the app, so I'm not going to suggest to do that. Marcin Prachnio versus Felipe Lins is set at 9 minutes. Prachnio's hit this 1 of 5 times, 20%, and Lins has hit this 1 of 2 times, 50% of the time. This is a pass for me. I don't really have a good read on how this goes. If I had to choose, I'd probably pick under, because I do think Lins chin checks Prachnio, or Prachnio chin checks Lins. But I wouldn't bet it, And like I said before, if you want to go under, maybe look at it on PrizePicks. If you want to go over, maybe check it out on the books. And then we have Arichi Lang versus Else, also set at 9 minutes. The books have it at 7.5 minutes. So Arichi Lang's hit this 2 of 2 times in the UFC. He hit it with Jeff Molina, and he hit it with Cody Durden. But Cameron Else, in his last 10 fights, he's never hit this. In his one UFC fight with Kyler Phillips, he lasted, I think I have the incorrect time there. I have 44 seconds, but I think he lasted 5 minutes and 44 seconds. I'm pretty sure. So that's probably an error. I do type this all by hand, so errors do happen, unfortunately. But anyways, let me close that. I always forget you guys could see my screen on here. All right. So, yeah, I'm fading that as well. Then we got Pedro versus Villanueva. The line's set at 5 minutes on PrizePicks. It's set at 7.5 on the books. Let's see. Pedro's hit this 1 of 6 times in the UFC. Villanueva's gone over 3 of 5 times, so 60% of the time. I don't see a point in playing this, honestly. It'll probably go under. I don't see it leaving the first round, but I'm not willing to play it. There's not much to say there. I do think Pedro finishes Villanueva in the first round, so if you really want it, you could play it, I guess, but personally, I'm not going to play that. This next one, though, will probably be the first time prop on PrizePicks I've played in a while. I like to bold them so I can go back after the show. But anyways, we got Marc-Andre Barriault versus Jordan Wright. The line's set at 10 minutes on PrizePicks. It's set at 7.5 minutes on the sports books. And Barriault has gone over 4 of 7 times, but Jordan Wright has never gone over in 5 fights. And I don't think Jordan Wright has ever gone over, period. He's gone to the second round 1 time, but never outside of it. So he's never been in past 10 minutes. That's why I like this play. I like the under. I like the under here. It's better than what the book gives you. The book gives you 7.5 minutes, so 10 minutes is much better. And I do think that there's no way this fight starts the 3rd round. I'd be shocked. And I will probably have a Barriault by 3rd round finish sprinkled in, but I do think this goes under the 2 rounds, and I'm going to play it myself. And then last for the time props, we got Jessica Andrade versus Amanda Lemos. And for this one, so Andrade, the fight is set at 15 minutes. On the books, it's set at 12.5. Now, this one's it's a little hard to break down because Lemos has never been in a 5-rounder. She's gone the distance 1 of 6 times. And Andrade has been in 4 5-rounders, and she's only gone past that mark 1 time. She went the distance against Joanna. I'm not interested in betting this just because both of these women hit really fucking hard. So, I think the under is live. I think the over is live. The over is live because they're both really tough, and I think Andrade is going to wrestle. So I don't hate the over on the books for that 2.5 rounds, but fade for me. So, significant strikes I like a lot better. I think there's often really good angles here. One of those is my favorite. I love betting Dagestani Russians who are wrestle heavy and don't really strike much. Either the ones who stick to overhand rights or the ones who spin around a lot. You got your Habib Nurmagomedovs and your Zabit Magomed Sharipovs. Those people are perfect for this kind of thing. I don't think we necessarily have anybody in that boat this week. We don't. But another angle is, if it's two guys or two women who are going to be on the feet most of the time, and they're not always. Sometimes they're in grappling shit, and that's why they're not hitting it. And this time they're going to be on the feet the whole time. That's an angle to look at. And there's what I'm looking at right now that is making me think of that exactly. So I think I'm going to have a few spots out here on the strikes. So first off, we got Dean Barry, 35.5. I have no interest in playing this. I don't condone it to anybody. Dean Barry, we don't know. We don't know what his numbers are going to look like. We don't know if Jackson's going to hold up. So I have no interest in playing that. We don't play blind here. Excuse me. Marcin Prachniow is set at 45.5. He's hit this 2 of 5 times, so 20% of the time. And he went way over in his fight against what's his name, Khalil Roundtree, because it went all 3 rounds and they were on the feet the whole time. And then he went over against Ike Villanueva, and again they were on the feet the entire time that the fight lasted. I think that if Lins doesn't finish him, or Prachniow doesn't finish Lins, I think this goes over. But because they're both kind of like do or die fighters, and I don't really trust either of their chins, I'm not going to be playing this one. Arichi Lang, 53.5. He's hit this 2 of 2 times, and that's impressive to me because one of them was against Cody Durden, who wrestled him for almost the entire fight. If he can get off 65 strikes when wrestling the whole time, I think he can possibly hit that here. The only issue is we don't know how Cameron Else is going to look. Is he going to get knocked out right away? Is Arichi Lang going to take him down and Else is going to accept bottom position? Because if those things happen, then Arichi Lang might not go over. But I am leading the over there, and I'm going to have a play on it. Tyson Pedro at 23.5. He's hit this 2 of 6 times. And I have no interest in playing this one. I think it's very possible he finishes Villanueva very quickly, and if that happens, he's not going to cover that strike count. Then we have Sergey Hondasko, 43.5 strikes is what it's set at. He's hit this 1 of 2 times, and this is the one I was talking about when I first started this part, the significant strikes, and it's because, so you look at his numbers, right? When he went to decision, Sergey, he hit 60 strikes. When he fought Rustam Khabilov, who wrestled him the entire time, he only landed 25. Dwight Grant's not going to wrestle him. He's going to strike with him. It's one question of if one of them's going to knock out the other. It's entirely possible that Dwight Grant knocks out Sergey. I don't think Sergey's going to knock out Dwight. But I think it's going to be on the feet this fight, and I think that the 43.5 has a really good chance of cashing, so I am going to be playing that. Marc-Andre Barriault, 48.5. He's hit this 4 of 7 times. I would be totally on this if it wasn't Jordan Wright he's fighting. Because it's Jordan Wright he's fighting, I can't get behind it. He can get KO'd, maybe go under. He can wrestle fuck and maybe go under. If he finishes Jordan Wright in round 1 or 2, it'll go under. So I'm not playing that one. You'll see this one's not only bold but highlighted. Kiarik's in the chat. What's up, buddy? He says, let's go. I hope this PFL card isn't too greasy today. Yeah, I think it's going to be greasy as fuck. PFL is always greasy. I remember last year I was extremely frustrated. I would just keep losing money on PFL. And I think it's partially because I stuck to the favorites a lot. And I've learned my lesson that PFL is not the spot to play chalky favorites. It's not Bellator. It's not UFC. But yeah, I have quite a slate for today. I'm excited. If you guys haven't seen my slate, check it out on You can see it on my Twitter, Couch Warrior Pod. You can also see it on my BetMMA page. That's where I update everything right away. I try to update my Twitter as fast as I can, but sometimes I'm really busy. But my PFL card is up. I just placed my last bet on Alex Martinez, and I did a sprinkle of 0.1 units on ACJ by KO, Antonio Carlos Jr. So I got that at plus 600. I thought it was worth a sprinkle. But yeah, I'm really hyped for that card, actually. I'm hyped for all the cards this week. We have so many fights. I've been having a blast breaking them down. So I am excited. And that's why I wanted to do the show early so I could chill and watch the PFL fights. But anyways, back to it. We got Charles Jourdain is set at 55.5. And I really like this one. So Jourdain's hit this 5 of 6 times, 83% of the time. The only time he didn't was against Kulabau in one of his weirder fights. I miscounted. He's had 7 fights and he's hit this 5 of 7. I'm incorrect there. But regardless, the only time he really didn't even get close at 44 was against Kulabau, which was just a weird fight. I think that here he's going to get the kind of fight he wants, like he did against Ewell, like he did against DeRosa, like he did against Rojo. He likes a striking battle. The guy hasn't shot a single time in the UFC, so he likes to strike. That's what he's going to want to do. And I think that Venata's going to oblige, and I think that 55.5 is going to be fairly easy to hit. So I am on that one. I will be playing that. Manel Kape, 57.5. He's gone over 1 of 4 times. And this one's tough because you see, like, he hit 53 strikes knocking out Zalgas in round number 1. So, you know, if he's just letting it rip, he can hit this number. And I also kind of like it because I know this is going to be on the feet. I know that Maderji also likes to strike on the feet. I'm just not sure. Manel Kape is such low output. I don't know. I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I'm just worried that his output's going to be too low. And I'm also kind of thinking Kape might chin check Arichi. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Sue Maderji, because Maderji's never really fought anyone like Kape. So I'm curious if he can get chin checked. He did. I remember he got hit and, like, not wobbled, but like hurt by Zaruk Adashev. So if he can do that, I think Kape can too. I'll be looking at that 57.5, but I don't think I'm going to play it. Barbara at 75.5. She's hit this 1 of 7 times, so I'm going to consider the under here, especially because she's fighting a wrestler in Montana De La Rosa. I think it's entirely possible that De La Rosa holds her against a fence, takes her down. I don't think she's going to be able to hold Barbara down for an intense period of time, but I do think it'll be enough where we're underdog. Under. I do think it'll be enough where we can hit the under here. And then you'll see I have Guida in bold as well, 32.5. And again, let's look at the Madsen fight, right? He got 72 strikes landed because they didn't grapple, because two grapplers nullified each other and they ended up on the feet. I think that the fight with Puelas is going to be similar there. I think that they're both grapplers and neither is going to be in a rush to hop on to the ground with each other. And that's going to mean they're striking. So if they're striking on the feet for even let's say they only go 2 rounds, I think that 32.5 gets covered. So I do like that. I will be playing that. Maybe a little Guida Jourdain over on the strikes. That might be a look. And then last one on this chart, we got Andrade. She's set at 70.5 strikes. She's hit this 3 of 10 times in her last 10 fights. And, you know, I would like this if I had more information on how Lemos is going to look, you know, extended against Andrade, but I don't. So I'm not going to play this. I think that both women carry a lot of power and can finish each other before we get to the strike count. I think that Andrade could wrestle fuck, and that would also mean we're probably not going to hit that 70.5. So I'm not going to play that. Too many unknowns. All right, this one's probably the most interesting when it comes to PrizePicks. So PrizePicks allows you to bet over-unders on fantasy scores, but they do not score like DraftKings. There are 2 main differences, I would say. The first being that DraftKings scores control time, which means that wrestlers who don't need many takedowns and can get a lot of blanket control, they'll score very highly on DraftKings. However, on PrizePicks, those same people are not going to score high. If they're like a Marab, who's just chain wrestling and landing 10 takedowns per fight, that's going to do it, because they get 6 points per takedown. That's 60 points right there. So that's one thing. And the second thing is that you get 3 points per takedown attempt here, and that can come in clutch. I forgot who it was. There was someone on this slate. Maybe as I'm going through it, I'll remember. But they defended like 10 or so takedowns. It's 30 points added to your score. So it's another thing to consider. It's like, so like if you have somebody fighting like Merab, right, and you don't think Merab's going to score all his takedowns, you think he misses a lot, could be a good opportunity to bet his opponent to go over the fantasy score. So I'll go over real quick the scoring, and then we'll go from the top. So the scoring is funky. The round finish bonuses are 100 points for a finish in the first round, 75 points for a finish in the second round, 50 points for a finish in the third round, and 20 points for a decision. And then if it's a 5-rounder, 35 for a finish in the fourth, and 25 for a finish in the fifth. Now, you get 0.6 points for per strike. You get 6 points for a takedown, 5 points for a submission attempt, and 12 points for a knockdown. All right, so first up we got Barry. I'm not like his other plays. I'm not going to play him at all because we don't have the information. He'll hit this if he knocks Jackson out cold in the first round, but I have a feeling that doesn't happen, so I'm not going to play that. Marcin Prachniow, 74.5. He's hit this 2 of 5 times. I'm tempted to go under because I have Felipe Lins winning this fight, and you know that's definitely an angle too when it comes to the fantasy scores because they only list the favorites, right? So if you think a favorite's going to lose, you have the dog like Jourdain. I have Vanando winning that fight. I kind of have to bet the under then because that's what I think is going to happen. If I think they're going to lose, then they're not going to hit that fantasy score. So Prachniow, 74.5. I am tempted to go under that and play Felipe Lins, but because both of these guys could crack each other's chins, I'm not interested in that, so I'm not going to play it. Arichi Lang at 93.5. He's never hit this, but I have it in bold because I think it's really important to look at. He did hit 90.6 points in a loss to Jeff Molina, which is incredible. That's a lot of fucking points, especially in a loss. So he is still scoring high. He scored 60 points in a fight where he was getting taken down constantly. Also impressive. If he picks up a finish, he's going to hit this if it's the first or second round. Even if he doesn't, you know, if he's taking down Else, if he's landing tons and tons of strikes, he's got an extremely high output, there's Arichi Lang. I think he's going to hit this score, so I am curious about going over. I don't normally like going over these really high numbers because it's just a really high number, but it's something to look at. I think that it could be possible and a decent play. And then next we got Tyson Pedro, 115.5. This is hit 3 of 6 times, so 50% of the time. And this will probably hit too. Probably another thing to look at, the over, because look, I'm almost positive he finishes Villanueva in round 1 or 2. If it's round 1, that's 100 points off the bat. If he knocks him down, that's 12 already. So he only needs a few strikes to cover. Second round is pretty much the same story. Again, I'm not extremely hyped to play it because 115 is a really high number, but I do think that he's going to go over. I think he finishes Ike. Sergey Hondasko, 73.5. He's hit this 1 of 2 times. He hit it in his win. He scored 83 points, and then in his loss to Rustam Khabilov, 39 points. I don't want to play this. I don't know how this fight's going to play out. Hondasko has been out for 2 years. In general, it's just a really weird fight, so I'm not interested in playing that. Marc-Andre Barriault, 81.5 is his score. He's hit this 3 of 7 times. You know, this should go over if like everybody thinks, and Jordan Wright can't get out of round 2, then Barriault should hit the score because that would mean 75 points minimum if he finishes Jordan Wright. But, you know, he can get finished by Jordan Wright in round 1. Who knows if they actually finish in the first 2 rounds? It's entirely possible they do go 3 rounds. Eventually, fighters break their thing. Like everybody's got their thing, but eventually it changes. Just because Jordan Wright's never been to decision doesn't mean it's never ever going to happen. Eventually, there's a good shot that it does happen. So I'm not that hyped to play this over. I don't think I'm going to. Jourdain, 80.5. Like I said before, because I think Venado wins the fight, I am interested in playing the under. And even if he loses the fight, I'm curious if this goes over because Venado moves a lot, so he's going to be hard to hit. He's going to be probably taking Jourdain down, which is going to limit how many strikes Jourdain can land. And Jourdain doesn't wrestle himself, so it's not like he's going to be scoring 6 points with that. So I like the under, and even if he wins, I think it's still possible to hit the under. That's never happened in his UFC career. Every time he won, he's gone over. But I think it's possible. Not going to go heavy, but probably something I play. Next, we got Manel Kopp, 84.5. He's hit this 2 of 4 times. In his last 2 fights, he knocked them out in the first round, so he scored it. But I don't think he's going to knock out Sumaderji in round number 1. I think it's entirely possible. He's extremely low output the entire fight. But it can get greasy in terms of whether he covers the score or not. If you look at his 57.6 in the loss, that's to Mateus Nicolau. Many of us thought he won that fight, and if he did, you add 20 points for the win bonus. That's 77.6 points. And, that's when he was getting taken down also by Nicolau, and he's not going to get taken down by Muderji, I don't think. So, I like the 84.5. I think it goes over. I just don't think I want to play it. Macy Barber at 55.5. She's hit this 4 of 7 times, and I am interested in this one. So I think she's not going to land an incredible amount, so that might make it difficult to score here because it's not going to be her who's wrestling. It's going to be De La Rosa. But what I'm thinking is if De La Rosa shoots tons and tons of takedowns and misses them, that's going to give us that opportunity to score with 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, 3 points. Add on to that, if Barber gets a decent output going, she only needs 35.5 points, and then she needs to win to get that 20-point win bonus, right? So I kind of like that. I like the lower numbers because in general they're just easier to hit, even if it makes sense. But I do like the over for that one. Next, we got Clay Guida at 75.5. He's hit this 2 of 10 times in his last 10 fights. And yeah, I mean, I bet Puella, so again, this is probably one that I'm going to go under on. And even if he wins, right? How is he going to score 75.5 points? Is he going to finish Puella's? I really don't think so. If it's a striking fight, I think that he loses, and even if he wins, all right, let's look at the Madsen fight, right? 46.2 points in a straight-up striking fight for the most part. Let's say he won. We give him that 20-point bonus. That's still 66.2 only. And then in the fight before that, 72.4 in a W. That's when he beat Michael Johnson. Again, he didn't hit it. So I do think the under on Guida is a good look, especially because I think he loses, but also because I think he won't hit it even in a win. So we are going to go under there. And last, we've got Andrade, 101.5. She's hit the 6 of 10 times in her last 10, which is incredibly impressive. Her last fight, she finished Calvillo, and then before that, she has Shevchenko, and then before that, she finished Caitlin Chookagian in round number 1, which was super impressive. That 121 you see down there is when she slammed Rose on her head. She scores very well, does Andrade. I do like her to go over here. I really don't think Lemos finishes her. I think that if Andrade gets a finish, she'll cover that 101. I think that if Andrade wrestle fucks for 5 rounds, I think she'll cover that 101. So I do kind of like it. I'll probably play it. Just like I said before, I don't love these high numbers, but I do kind of like it. I think Lemos is a bit in over her head. It's quite a jump to go from Angela Hill to Jessica Andrade. And all right, and then we're up to the last chart for PrizePicks, and then we'll go to DraftKings, and I'll try to run through that real quick. I actually really like doing PrizePicks first. I think we're going to stick to this order from now on. You got 2 viewers in the chat. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate everybody who comes and watches my show, especially live, so thank you very much. I do appreciate you big time. And anyways, so now we have the takedown portion of PrizePicks. This is normally one of my favorite ones to play. Would a round 1 Andrade KO cover 101.5? Kiarix asks. Yeah, I mean, it would be hard for it not to cover because round 1 is 100 points, right? 100 points for a win bonus in round 1. So then she's only got to land, 3 strikes to cover that? 1.6, 12. Yeah, she's only got to land 3 strikes to cover that. And if she KOs her, I do think it takes at least 3 punches. So yeah, I would say if you think Andrade gets a round 1 finish, that 101 is guaranteed. She would have to literally not strike at all to not hit that. It would just have to be like Lemos just falls over, which I don't doubt will happen. But after last week, who knows? So normally I do like the takedowns. I bet them quite a bit. I did so for the PFL card today. One of my favorite spots was the under on Bruce Soto. For some reason, they listed Soto for the underdog. I mean, for the takedowns, and they set him at 2. But he's fighting Wilkinson, who wrestles himself and is much much bigger. So I'll get there in a sec. I'm gonna tell you guys my PFL plays, but so for here we got Richie Lang 1.5 is what it's set at. I don't hate this one. I'm gonna take a look myself. I think it's entirely possible. He gets 2 takedowns. Another thing to consider is I talk about this every week. The takedown mat return, that covers the 2 takedowns most of the time. They usually call a mat return another takedown is what I've noticed. So all you need to hit the 2 takedowns is you need the guy to get 1 takedown, you need the other dude to pop back up, and then you need him to mat return him, and then you hit the 2. So I do like the 1.5s. I like the halves, obviously, because then you only need 1 takedown. So I will probably be playing Pedro, even though he's only hit that 1 time. And I think I'm going to be playing Richie Lang as well for the over. Sergey Hondasko 1.5. He's never gotten this. And I don't think it's going to start now, but I'm not going to get in front of him. Haven't seen him in 2 years. Maybe all he's been doing is wrestling. So I'm not going to get in front of him there. Clay Guida 1.5. Again, may not land though. You know, Mark Madsen, obviously, he didn't even really try. I think it's possible he doesn't try here either, really. And then Andrade, 2 takedowns. I think this goes over, honestly. If she's smart, she's going to do it. Lemos does hit hard, and Andrade is very small and hittable. So if she's just closing the distance trying to strike, I think she's going to get hit a lot. So I do think she needs to grapple, and I will happily play her over 2 rounds. And that's it. That's it for the prize picks portion. We're going to hop into DraftKings in a second. Before that, I want to pull up prize picks, and I will go over my plays. Let me grab my phone. Alrighty. I'll pull it up for you guys. In terms of numbers, like what I'm staking here, I usually stake very small on prize picks. Never more than a half unit, usually even smaller than that. I play them similar to how I play my if you guys know me, I love my round robins. I try to play them whenever I have a good picks for it. And I kind of treat my prize picks similarly. If I find like a few spots I like, I'll just kind of spin them around in all their combinations. So I've got Bruce Soto under 2 takedowns, Don Madge under 92.5 strikes. I think that Don Madge might cover the strikes, especially with how hittable Roush is. But you know how Don Madge is. He can throw in the grappling too sometimes. And if he does that, I think the strikes might not cover the 92.5. That's a lot of strikes. Then I have Soto under 2 takedowns, Emiliano Sordi under 74.5 strikes. Again, I think that the fight might not last enough to cover the 74.5. I think that Corey can mix in takedowns possibly to cover that, to not allow the 74.5. So I like that spot too. My next one's Bruce Soto, 2 takedowns, Jeremy Stevens under 93.5 fantasy points. For that one, it really just comes down to, like, is Stevens going to finish Clay Collard? No. So then how is he going to cover the 93.5? He could cover if he throws like 150, 130 strikes, and then a few more things mixed in. I just don't think so, so I like the under there. Then I've got Bruce Soto under 65.5 strikes, Martin Hamlet under 60.5 strikes. Those two are based off of Soto. I don't think that he's that great of a striker, and I think that Wilkinson can wrestle him. And I'm not sure that the fight even goes long. And Hamlet, I like him there because he's a grappler big time. So I do think he's going to look to wrestle, and I don't know if he's gonna cover the 60.5. One thing to consider though, these PFL numbers for the strikes, it's not significant strikes like it is for the UFC. It's just strikes. So it's something we have to be careful about because, for example, the Hamlet pick might come back to bite me because if he gets a takedown and then lets the grounded pound go, he can cover. So I'd be wary with that one. I didn't realize when I made that play. Then again, I got Soto under 2 takedowns, Victor Pesta under 90.5 strikes. That comes down to me thinking that there's going to be a good amount of grappling in the Pesta fight. I think that Omari might hold him against the fence for a while. Then I've got Soto under 88.5 fantasy score and Stevens under 93.5 fantasy. Then again, Soto under 88.5, and that's paired with Pesta at under 85.5. I don't love that pick, but again, it's kind of based off of the whole thing that I think a lot of it's going to be on the fence. So, in control time positions, which would mean that Pesta's not going to have a lot of opportunities to score. And then I've got two more. Alex Martinez, under 84.5. I'm kind of curious why I played that. I don't remember what my logic was. So I'm a little curious why I played that. I'm not sure why I did that. So I'm not going to tell anyone to play that. I don't even remember doing it. And then my last one is Stevens under 93.5 and Sorty under 106.5. Those are fantasy scores for both. So yeah, and for Sorty, it's just mostly because I don't think very highly of Sorty. I faded him the entire PFL season last year, which ended up being profitable. So, but all right, I'm gonna take a quick pee break, and I will be right back, and then we'll hop into DraftKings. I'll try to run through it, and then we'll call it a day so we can all get ready and pregame for PFL. I will be right back. Alrighty. Hope that wasn't too long for you guys. Now let's hop into this. So, real quick, like I do every week, I'll go over what GPP and cash plays are, the difference, because I will be mentioning it a lot. A GPP is like a tournament. There's a lot more players and a lot more prizes. And because of the way it's set up, you need to find as many finishers as you can for your lineup. You're looking for the highest possible score, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult to hit the top and, pull that big prize. Especially another thing to think about is low ownership. You want low ownership for your GPP plays. An example would be, say, Mike Jackson wins, right? And you have Mike Jackson, and you're in the GPP, and you match up with everything else with everyone else. You're gonna hit number one because no one else is gonna have Jackson. So that's for GPPs, and for cash plays it's different, right? So cash means like games like double up, right? I like to play double ups very often, and I like them because the prize is the same. From no matter what you place, you're gonna double up, and that's it. So you don't need to be at the top. You don't need to be number one. You just need to hit one of the places. So there you're looking for, obviously you want a high ceiling. You want to score as much as you can. But you also want to look for people who have a high floor. That just means that they're not going to score super low in a loss either. So you don't want someone who's going to get grapple fucked. You don't want someone who's going to get knocked out, right? So you don't want no like Villanueva or anything like that. So yeah, let's go through it real quick. I decided I will spark this for the rest of the show. Hopefully any narcs have already come and gone. So happy 420, folks. A little bit of an underwhelming one, but hopefully it's good enough for you guys. All right, so first up, you'll see we got Romanov up there at 9,600. That's not even up yet. I totally made up that number. It's just what I assume it's going to be set at. It's possible they set him even higher. I don't know if I've ever seen anything higher than... Have I even seen 96? I'm not sure. I have to go through my charts. But that's going to be a must-own. I mean, Chase Sherman coming in on short notice. Chase Sherman having no grappling. Chase Sherman getting submitted by fucking Jake Collier at heavyweight. Chase Sherman accepting the fight only because he got a new contract. Like, this... He took this because he knows he's going to lose, but he doesn't care because he got a new contract instead of getting cut. All right, so Romanov is a must play, and if you don't play him, you're probably going to end up behind. It just sucks because his salary is so high. It's going to be really hard to make a proper lineup because personally, I hate most of the underdog options, which makes it difficult if you're picking a lot of 9,000s and such. So under him, we got Dean Barry at 95 and 100, 95 and 100, 9,500. And that's an auto fade, similar to why I faded him on PrizePicks. We don't have any information on the guy. He kind of sucks as well. And I think he's going to have some high ownership because everybody's like, oh, this Mike Jackson guy's not even a fighter. Blah, blah, blah. Barry's going to spark him. I still think Jackson might have better striking than Barry. But yeah, I'm not going to play that. That's a major fade for me. And I do have one dart throw on Jackson in one of my GPP lineups. And then we got Tyson Pedro. 9,300 is his salary. Averaging a score of 61.2, which is not great, but you look at it, it's in those losses that were kind of shaky losses too. Those fights could have gone in a completely different way if they ran them back a few more times. Like for example, the Rua fight. I don't think that finishes the way it did 10 out of 10 times. Same goes with the OSP loss. Kiarik saying Dean Barry at 9,500 LMAO. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I mean, Dean Barry is at this. He's as much of a favorite as Alexander Romanov is, right? How ridiculous is that? You're saying that Alexander Romanov Barry does against what's his face, Jackson? I don't agree. And Kiarik saying it'll probably be a sloppy decision. I agree there. That's why I'm looking at that over very closely. Over 1.5 at -110 seems almost too good to be true here. Both of these guys really suck. But anyways, back to Pedro. Highest implied probability of a finish on the slate for the fight. He's got like an 8-inch reach advantage over Villanueva. He can sub him, not just KO him. So I do like Pedro a lot. I've got him on most of my lineups. I went a little careful on cash with him because we haven't seen him in like, 4 years? 4 years. And Ike's got hands. That's all he has, but Ike does have hands, and every fight starts standing. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for Ike to get around 1 KO, you know? Then we got Arichi Lang, 9,100, averaging a score of 51.4. And that's in 2 losses, so, that's not horrible. He's averaging 2 takedowns per fight. Control time's not fantastic, but the implied probability of a finish on this fight is the 3rd highest on the slate at 69.4%. And I do like Arichi Lang. I like him more so for cash than I like him for getting a phone call. I'll answer that after. I like him more for cash than I do for the GPPs because I'm not sure if he's going to finish else. I think he might, but I'm not sure about it. I'm not positive about how the fight goes. But I do think that else doesn't finish him. So I do like Arichi Lang for cash. I think that even in a loss, he'll score a decent amount. It's just at 9,100, do you really want him to go to, do you even want to accept a loss? I don't know. So it's got its pros and cons. I like Arichi Lang for cash, but some others definitely might not, and I understand why. Then we got Macy Barber at 9,000, averaging a score of 71.5. I'm not going to go too much further. I'm fading her. I think she wins the fight. I have a bet on her, but I think it's close. I think she gets taken down, and I think it's going to be hard for her to put up a high score here, so I'm not going to be playing Macy Barber, and I suggest leaving her out of your lineups as well. At least most of them. She could get a KO, right? She has finished women. She finished Jillian Robertson, who I'd say is a similar fighter to Montana De La Rosa, but she finished her in round number 1. So, it's not out of the realm of possibility that she covers the 900, but I feel like she probably will not. Andrade at 89.5. 8,900. Wasn't the smoke that made me cough. I choked on my own spit. But Andrade is probably one of my favorite plays on the slate. For GPP, or for cash. For GPPs, for either one, look, she's got 5 rounds to work, first of all. Playing a 5-rounder is almost a given, especially with someone like Andrade, right? She carries power. She's got good wrestling. She can get a ton of top control here against someone like Lemos. Lemos did poor in the grappling against Angela Hill, of all people, right? Like, Angela Hill's been working on her wrestling, sure, but come on, like, she's not an amazing grappler. And not only that, Angela Hill also swept her from bottom and ended up on top and then controlled her for like 2 minutes. So I'm not confident in Lemos' grappling. I think that Andrade could take advantage of that. So I do like Andrade. I have her on most of my slates, honestly. Even for cash, like, how does she lose? I guess she gets finished. I just don't think it's going to happen. So I do like Andrade. And then Manel Kopp next at 8,700, averaging a score of 74.5. I don't like him for cash because when he's not doing well, he's doing terrible. If you look at his losses, the 27.9 to Mateus Nicolau stands out. That's very poor. But for GPPs, I like him. I think he's got the finishing upside in this fight. I have his opponent Suma Derji in a few cash plays. I think he's the better spot there. But I think for GPPs, you're better off with Kopp if you're going to play either of them. 8,700 isn't a terrible spot, especially with 2 first-round finishes in a row. He does always carry that power. And do I think he finishes Suma Derji? Probably not, but I think it's live. So I do like Kopp for GPP players. I can't believe I'm smoking on camera. This is the first and last time I'm ever doing this. But next we got Marc-Andre Barriault. He is at 8,600, averaging a score of 48.7. And I'm not going to go much further. I'm fading Barriault for the most part. I have him in one cash lineup because I think that if this does extend, he might either finish Jordan Wright or he might grapple fuck him. I'm just a little worried about possibly, him getting KO'd in round number 1 like he did last time. I don't necessarily think it'll happen. I'm not sure. I might rethink having him in any lineups. Maybe I'll switch him to GPP. That one's one I'm not confident on at all. I guess for GPPs he could be a good player, right? Because he'll probably be owned not so much. Not many people know him, and even less people think highly of him. And he does have the upside of possibly finishing in round 2 or 3. So. And wrestle fucking if he chooses to. So I guess it's something to look at. Something I'll have to consider. Jourdain at 8,500, averaging a score of 63.8. Again, this is probably one you should have on your GPPs because of his finishing ability, his striking, his output. I'm going light on him just because I think Venata wins, but I'm not playing Venata much either because I don't think he scores much either. So that's one fight in general that I'm probably fading, but Jourdain will be on my GPPs, some of them. Prachnio is one I'm fading very well as well. I have a tiny bit of exposure there just because, he can finish Lins too. I just don't think he does. I think Lins is the better striker. Prachnio 8,400. It's pretty expensive for his lack of upside, I would say. 66.1% implied probability of a finish on the fight. That's good, but I'm fading him for the most part. I don't think highly of him. The way he wings his punches, he was getting pieced up by Ike for the first round. Ike had the better boxing. Prachnio won because he was able to kick Ike because Ike is so one-dimensional he forgets kicks are a thing in MMA. So Hondasko's a fade for me. Even in a win, 70.8 points. I mean, that's not terrible. I just don't think he scores like that against Dwight Grant. And there's so many unknowns. He's been out 2 years, so I'm not having him on my lineups, really. Clay Guida, 8,200. I'm fading Clay, too, and that's probably at my own risk. Clay has proven me wrong time and time again. And then when I do bet on him, the motherfucker loses. But, yeah, I'm not going to play him just because I think Puelas can finish him. I think on the feet, Puelas will be better. And, Clay's probably Clay has the pressure advantage, but that doesn't always win the fight. So I'm going to be fading Guida, and I will be playing Claudio in both my GPPs and my cash plays. I think he's got good finishing upside. He has the possibility of submissions. I've played his submission prop as well. Dwight Grant at 7,900. Also fading him like I am Sergey, his opponent. But I will probably have him in some GPPs because he does have finishing upside. The dude hits like a truck. Almost knocked out Dan Rodriguez in round number 1. And so I will have some exposure to him. There's upside there. Lynn's 7,800. Because I was mentioning this before, because there's so many options up top, and because we're going to essentially have to play Romanov, we need underdog plays down here. And like the lowest ones, you can't play them, right? Jackson, 6,700. Are you going to play that? You shouldn't. You can play him on a GPP. I did for low ownership, just a shot in the dark, but you shouldn't be playing him much. Villanueva, 6,900. I wouldn't have him on your lineups. Cameron L, 7,100. A lot of people like him as a dog, so he's probably not terrible. But not for me. I have some exposure, but very little. De La Rosa, 7,200. She's probably one of my favorite dogs as well for DraftKings. I have her losing the fight, but I think that as a dog at 7,200, she's got a bunch of upside. Great grappling, decent striking, very good camp. She's training out of Elevation with great training partners. So I think all those things go in her advantage. And for 7,200, I think she's a good option. Amanda Lemos at 73. I feel like you should have some exposure to her, but I faded her because I think Andrade beats her fairly, not easily, but fairly clearly. Sumaderji, 75. I like him a ton for cash. I think that even in a loss here, he'll probably cover that 75.5 price tag. I think that his striking is good. He'll put up numbers. He can mix it up. I wish he grappled more, or grappled at all, really. He's only got one takedown in the UFC. So he's probably, it's risky, but all these underdog plays are risky. It's going to be very difficult to get a good lineup going. Jordan Wright, 7,600. That's a instant fade for cash, auto play for GPP. His win condition is around 1 KO almost all the time, save for one fight. So you got to have him on your GPPs, but in cash, because of that do or die attitude and game plan, you can't have any exposure to him because in a loss he's gonna get you nothing. Venata, 7,700. I think he wins the fight. Maybe he's a decent play, I guess, for cash, but I don't think he's good for a GPP because he's not going to finish him. He hasn't finished somebody in a while. So, and then Felipe Lins, I like him a lot as a dog. I do think he's a better striker. I think he wins the fight. I think he'll be faster, crisper, more defensively responsible, and I think he could get a finish. So I do like him for a good amount of upside, and I think he'll also have low ownership. And that's it. That's all I got. I read you guys my PFL prize picks. That's DraftKings. For PredictionStrike this week, I have ownership of Andrade and Puelas, neither of which has made me any money. I had Romanov, and then I lost money because every time a fighter cancels a fight, their stock goes plummeting. But yeah, that's it. Enjoy the fights today, guys. I'm super hype. I hope you guys are as well. And then we got a bunch of other fun fights this week. So yeah, good luck.